We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Tua Tagovailoa. Want to take a look at him mid-season, how this 2023 year is going, how he's played overall, and really how he's disproved a bunch of the narratives, because every year there's a new Tua narrative. Almost every week there's a new Tua narrative, and I really feel like he's proved the doubters wrong in a lot of situations. He's been very solid across the board. And I'm not going to try to act like he's a perfect player, doesn't have his weaknesses, but a lot of these narratives are either just completely false or way over-exaggerated. And just to name some that are literally off the top of my head, coming up with things that I've heard just this season or last season, it's like he can't play off script, or he's a product of the system. Arm strength, has no arm talent. People don't understand the difference between arm strength and arm talent. He's carried by his weapons. He's not clutch, because of the Chiefs game, apparently. He's not able to throw it deep down the field. His receivers just get yards after catch. He's a one-read quarterback. He just throws to wide open guys or throws to spots. Isn't able to check it down either. So many different things that you hear about Tua. And 90% of those things just aren't true at all. The other 10%, maybe you can take some of that stuff with a grain of salt and he can improve on it. But there's also so many plays in this video just to prove this, that a lot of these are wrong. Here's just Tua late in the game versus the Chargers on a 3rd and long, making an off-script play, throwing the ball deep down the field to Tyreek Hill. Very impressive. Getting to his, not his, after his first read too. And it's not like Tyreek Hill's wide open. So showing off some arm talent there, showing off his ability off script, not being a product of a system, stepping up, being clutch when it mattered. This is probably the best play of the season for him, for Tua. And it was a really big one because this win really ended up mattering. Then he's able to finish the drive to get this go-ahead touchdown at Tyreek Hill on the fade. Just absolute dime. Corner of the end zone. Doesn't really get placed any better than that. That's clutch. And I don't even like the play call because I don't like throwing fades down in the red zone. It is a very low percentage play in my opinion, but Tua executes it to a high level. This is a clutch throw, and I don't really understand where the he's not clutch now thing comes from. He's always been a pretty clutch quarterback. That's what he's kind of was known for coming into college, and he's had some big time comebacks even at the NFL level. This Chargers game was so good for Tua. Under pressure here, another play just off script. Not being a product of a system, making a great throw to Berrios, who's not wide open down the field on a 3rd and 15. Get this conversion. You get points on the board on this drive. This is not easy. You can see his eyes. Has to come off his first read. Not there. Scan back. Sees that he might go to Berrios right here, but he feels the pressure. Has to avoid it. Get out. Make a throw on the run, off script like this. Throwing off platform, off balance. That is a good perfect throw. Arm talent has to do more than just the strength. It's also your accuracy, throwing off these bases, throwing with awkward arm angles, the touch, different levels of velocity while on the move too. That's amazing work from Tua Tagovailoa. Another narrative that Tua's faced is he can't throw the deep ball because I think people equate arm strength to deep ball throwing, which is usually not the case. Arm strength is usually more common, I think, throwing into tight windows over the middle of the field, which Tua makes up for with his anticipation. Throwing the deep ball, right here, is all about timing, and he hits the timing perfectly. And he's throwing this Tyreek deep ball multiple times. You'll see it all throughout this video, how many times he did it. And they've connected on it pretty much every single time. He missed a couple deep balls earlier in this Chargers game that weren't straight vertical routes. They were some deep crossers. And I think since then, he's been probably the most accurate deep ball thrower in the league this year, or one of them. Gonna definitely show a few examples of how he doesn't just throw to wide open receivers, and that he's they'll say, they'll want to use this as a product of a system, or he's just throwing to spots. Either way, QBs don't do this very often. It's very rare that you see other QBs do this throughout a game. Maybe you get it once. This is something Tua is doing multiple times each and every game, and it's not just a one-off thing that you see every few weeks. He's doing it at least 3 times, 2 to 3 times a game. Look when he releases this ball. This is not throwing to an open receiver. This guy is not open, and he ends up hitting this perfectly in stride behind the linebacker. That stuff is special. That's arm talent too. Believe it or not, that's great accuracy. Those things are obviously a strength of this game that people don't question, but these types of throws, I think, are what makes Tua so special. Another Tua play off script. I feel like that last play that I showed, the anticipation, the throwing with timing, open spots, I feel like that's something CJ Stroud has really excelled at this year. And to be honest, Tua and Stroud actually have some similarities, I think, to their strengths with their anticipation and accuracy, stuff like that. So it is weird to see, like, Stroud does get praised. Like, I feel like I haven't seen him get any sort of negative narrative toward his game. It's like he's already should be on the MVP level. When I do think him and Tua actually play some similar games. So it is interesting to see how that plays out. But if you go watch their film, they definitely excel in similar areas. And then I do think Stroud's a little better off script, but Tua, don't want to say like he's amazing off script, but there is a narrative that he literally can't do it. And like this Chargers game, he had like 4 or 5 plays just like this. And he usually makes a play like this every game. It's just not his go-to. And the reason it doesn't happen that often is more just like when your first read is open, like they say he can't get to a second read, but when your first read's open, why would you not throw it, you know? Or if it's there, or you're throwing with anticipation to throw it open, that's what Tua does, and that's why those narratives get created. Another play of Tua making a big-time one on a third down situation. He's been great on, you know, those money downs and money situations. Gets face masked on the play, has to work off script, gets to multiple different reads. These are things, you know, look at him controlling line of scrimmage, making adjustments, making an athletic play, and look at the quick zip on this. This is arm talent right here. Like, he gets his eyes up, not ready to really throw the ball at all, and he instantly finds Berrios, and look how quick that ball gets zipped out right into Berrios' chest. That is insane, the quick release and the accuracy of that ball. This is still one of my favorite Tua plays of the season. The footwork within the pocket, stepping up, getting to another read, and that touch accuracy down the field into a, you know, tighter window as well. This is some beautiful stuff. Doesn't like what he sees over the middle and just floats it right over to Braxton. Puts this absolutely on a dime. That stuff, and throwing it with outside the numbers. I feel like people just expect to see in breakers, which obviously he does at a very high level, and the offense runs that too. And it's also not a bad, like, the product of a system thing. Like, yeah, he can be a product of the system because the system's so good, and he runs that system at a highest level as anybody ever has. And this is a very prominent one too. And it's very special to see. And when the thing doesn't work, because it doesn't always work, he still has made some plays. This play from Tua is necessarily not very impressive. It's the Tyreek touchdown where he kind of comes up wide open. And, you know, people will point to this play to say, like, he's always throwing to wide open receivers, which is just not the case if you've seen, you know, the other clips. Sometimes they're open, and that's a good thing. He throws it to the open guys. That's actually what a quarterback's supposed to do. But here, people say he just throws to spots, and he can't get to a second read. If he just threw to spots and couldn't read the defense, he would have thrown it to Chosen right here. And then if he then was going to go to a second read and he just throws to a spot, he would have just let go of the ball. But Tyreek ran the wrong route. They literally confirmed it, but he holds on to it, finds him opened up. That's, you know, working out of the product of your system. Here's Tua going through his progressions, getting to his check down. This was a thing more last year, like especially after that Chargers game, that he just wouldn't throw it to his check downs. I do agree it was something that he needed to improve on, and I do think he's improved upon it. But even last year, it was so overstated in that Chargers game. I saw people posting like clips of like 15 plays where he could have checked it down, and I was like, bro, the context of those plays are just completely left out. And the context on, like, I would say all of them except like 2 or 3 were like situations where you should not be checking the ball down. They were like 3rd and 20s. Like, it didn't matter if he checked it down or not. Even the checkdowns weren't open in some of them. Only like 2 of those plays were like, oh yeah, he for sure should have gone to his check down. It's just, these things get overblown. But this is great to see him going through his progression, feeling some pressure, staying poised, get the ball, know where your guy's at, and let him go out there and make a play. Really love this play to show him that he doesn't always throw to wide open receivers, and he can get to different reads. Didn't like his first read there, so he resets the feet in the pocket, gains some depth as well to get away from the defenders, and then you snap his eyes across while they're tied with his feet, and then deliver an absolute strike over the middle in front of the safety, perfectly placed into a tight window. It doesn't get any better than that. This play is similar to that other one where that first read isn't there. It's locked up. He's not just, you know, playing on a timing. He resets his feet, gains some depth, and he still throws this ball with anticipation, which is insane. Like, he's releasing this ball before Tyreek's even turned, and that is throwing your receiver open. That's why these guys end up coming open so much. Sometimes it's a system. Sometimes it's the receivers being so good they're getting open, but also a lot of the times it's Tua throwing them open. It's a combination of everything, which I don't think people can really grasp, or at least some people can't grasp, and it can be very frustrating. Here's Tua down in the red zone, making a big play off script. Doesn't really like what he sees initially. Everything's covered up. Get outside the pocket. Throw your receiver open on the run. People don't see him as an athlete. I mean, he's not the most athletic quarterback in the NFL, but he can still make some plays with his pocket awareness, and he has just enough athleticism to escape in a lot of these situations. And then I think, he doesn't have the arm strength to really rip it down the field while he's off platform, but he has the arm talent to really put the ball in a good place and keep it away from the DB, and he knows exactly where to put it, and he is always throwing with some good timing too on these situations. Like, he's made a lot of throws on the run this year, especially on rollouts, like rolling out to the left and then finding a guy back a little bit to his right, throwing it across his body. If a guy had like a super weak arm, they would be throwing interceptions doing that all the time, and Tua has not. Here's the second Tyreek deep ball. This time they get single high. A lot of the other times they've been facing like quarters to that side of the field, so you can still throw it deep. But whenever he got single high, this is just cheating for the Dolphins. Like, that's ball placement. Yeah, the receiver's open, but he throws an absolute dime on the run. He can definitely throw deep, especially when everything is clean. His deep ball has been even better this year to another level. He's really stepped up, which I think is a big part of this. And honestly, I've skipped a few plays that I could have shown just because the video is going to be so long, and it kind of can be repetitive sometimes, but really got to get the point across with some of these plays that this stuff is happening all the time. Oh, looky what I found here. Another deep ball for Tyreek for the touchdown. Tua throws another one, hits him right in stride. Literally, he hasn't had to slow down on any of these. This is like the only one where maybe he had to turn back a tiny bit, but doesn't really slow down, gets the separation. This has been amazing for them all year long, and I think the Tua can't throw deep or only throws 2 yards and they get the yak. I haven't even talked about the yak at all throughout this video because none of these plays have really had that much yak because that's just not a big part of the Dolphins offense. Sometimes it happens on screens. Every QB is going to get some yards after catch, but the Dolphins offense, you would think so based on their personnel, but if you're actually watching, that's not the case. Nice little throw outside the numbers here for Tua. People say arm strength, gets off his first read to Waddle, which he didn't like, and the receiver does get wide open. That's why he's capable of throwing these, but this is a far hash throw, like far hash to the opposite sideline. Also, comes off of his first read, resets his feet, throws this ball. But the reason he's able to get away with this stuff, yes, the receiver gets open, but even when they don't get wide open, it's because he's throwing the ball so early and so accurately that's another big reason that they look like they've created so much separation, something that goes so unnoticed because you can't see them breaking down the field. But once you watch on the film, it is very evident that Tua is throwing the ball 99% of the time before a receiver makes their break, and it is insane that how efficient they've been and how little miscommunications they've had down the field, because that should happen a lot more for how often they're anticipatory throws. Tua does not throw to into open windows. He throws into tight windows as well. He throws into all of the windows, but he can even make these tight windows throw because of the anticipation, the accuracy, the timing. Usually a quarterback with a weak arm doesn't make these throws this often, but he was doing them versus the Chiefs, and that was kind of how they were moving the ball early on. Here it is again. Another tight window throw, this time a little more over the middle of the field. This stuff is insane, and it doesn't get talked about enough by the mainstream media. They don't notice this stuff. This throw is ridiculous. The timing of it, the accuracy, get it over the outstretched hand of the linebacker. He's fitting these types of throws in every single week. I don't want to hear these narratives about throwing it to wide open receivers, and sometimes when they look so wide open, it's because of Tua. It could also be because of the receivers sometimes and the system, but I don't think the Dolphins have that sort of separation at a way bigger level than most other teams. I think it's pretty close. I think they're near the top, but I don't think it's some crazy thing that Tua has compared to other quarterbacks. Love the balls on this 4th and 1 throw, throwing this ball to Jalen Waddle, back shoulder. That is arm talent to place that ball there. And also, that's a clutch play in this certain situation. Know exactly where to put it based on the corner's positioning and leverage. It's pretty good stuff there from Tua Tagovailoa. And another one. Another deep ball to Tyreek. He hits these all the time. It's a little bit different this time with the play action behind the back. Spin around, but the footwork in the pocket. He drops these balls deep dime every single time. QBs do not do this, even when they're wide open, every time they run it. At this consistent level, it's just not something that happens. Hitting them in stride, putting it away on the outside shoulder, just in case the safety was there to make a play. That is textbook. This is what they teach you, and this is what Tua is doing. Pretty much when they run this one time a game, it gets hit. Another play where Tua has to go through another one of his reads, step in the pocket, make a little play off script, keep his eyes down the field, finds Waddle open, which is, one of the things, but He also has to do some other things here. Gets off his first read. He sees that this safety's robbing this. He has this open, but doesn't want to get him destroyed. So he comes off, gets off script, throws it off platform, finds this guy open down the field. Good work there from Tua. This is one of Tua's most impressive throws of the season on like the 3rd and 20 situation where he throws the deep out to Cedric 25 yards down the field. This takes some arm strength, some arm talent. Teams aren't expecting this. They're expecting the over the middle of the field throw. They think Tua can't make this throw. He proves them wrong time and time again. It's just not what his like main strength is, and it's not what the offense is called around. But when they've been asked to do it, they've been pretty successful throughout this season. And the last play we're going to break down, the last deep ball throw to Tyreek Hill, just hitting him in stride with perfect accuracy. Another deep ball throw down the field. He has so many big time throws, and they're always all air yards. And if you notice one theme throughout this video, there was barely any yards after catch. And that was not by design. That just happened naturally from me going through the plays. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just finding all of the good plays that Tua had, which was pretty much most of them. And it was very, very successful. That I think it just proved the narrative wrong, a lot of the narratives wrong. You know, all the ones that I named earlier, the product of the system. Can't throw outside the numbers, doesn't have the arm strength. He's a yak QB, he's a one-read QB. All the other ones I said, and there was a bunch of them. And I think, this video, that's why I'm showing so many plays, because sometimes people are like, oh, that's just a one-off scenario, and there was even more plays I could have showed, but I feel I would have got a little too repetitive and too long, but I did need to show enough to get my point across. I don't know if people are still watching at this point sometimes. I know people usually click off by the end, but if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.